Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the build. I'm Chris. This is Van Off Grid, and on this video here I'm going to show you guys my solar system setup. Did it all by myself. It was relatively simple. So I went ahead on top of my van. I have an NV350. I put 4 solar panels up there. I have an Epever 40 amp charge controller, a 300 amp hour lithium battery, and it's all running off of a 3000 watt Renogy inverter. So I really enjoyed installing this system here. I had a couple ideas. I did not want to have holes through the ceiling of the van because that's just going to run into leaking and other problems later. And I thought about just taping it down. I had to research the right type of tape. I then thought about maybe it's going to fly off driving down the road. I came across a video where I was trying to figure out actually what type of subsurface I would put under my flexible solar panels, and I came across a video where this guy actually owns a camping store, a business, and he sells and designs all this stuff for campers. But he used corrugated plastic sheeting first. He drilled holes through it, and then he bolted the actual flex solar panels to that, and then he used butyl tape, which is probably the strongest tape in the world as far as I know. Once it's affixed and bonded tight down, that's it. You can't remove it. You can't take it off. But so the guy gave me, I kind of sort of had the idea. This other YouTube channel, appreciate it. People sharing things like that. It helped me finish off my idea that I was already working on. And my local hardware store actually had the parts that I needed to do this, so everything just worked out great with that. And I went ahead and made the decision to just roll with the corrugated plastic, and that actually worked out extremely effective. For one, it adds a level of rigidity to the solar panel. Like I said, I got flex panels. They're really thin, pretty thin and light actually, and I didn't want to have them stuck directly to the surface of the ceiling of the vehicle because of flex panels get really hot, and I didn't want to have this extra layer of heat added to the ceiling and coming down into the roof and into the cabin, and I'm just creating a hot vehicle for myself. So I wanted to have some space under the panel, between the panel and the skin of the vehicle, and that actually, since it's corrugated plastic, it's actually strong enough and it allows airflow to go through it, which I'll show you guys here in a second. I got a ladder, we'll go up top and I'll explain it up there. But so I simply just measured it out. I have 2 on the back and then 2 up in front of that. I wired them in parallel, so they're 100 watt panels at 18 volts. This is really important. If you have a 12 volt battery, which most people do, you want to make sure you have an 18 volt solar panel. And the reason is, if you have a 12 volt battery and a 12 volt panel, once the battery reaches 12 volts, the electricity flow from the panel to the battery will basically equalize, and the battery won't charge much beyond that. But I guess I didn't realize till talking to some people, many folks may not know that a battery can actually most go up to about 13 to 13.5 volts. You can charge it, and that's actually 100% of the battery capacity. So if you have a 12 volt panel, it's only going to charge the battery to 12 volts. It's not going to take it up to 13.5. And so I went ahead. Many solar panels are sold and advertised as just 12 volts. A lot of them come from foreign countries, and the performance of it just isn't what you think it might be, or it might just be 12 volts and that's it. So that's never going to take your battery up to where you want it, and it'll be a slower charge in general. So I went ahead with 18 volt panels. That way it's above the battery, which is 13.5, so we can always push that electric down through the system and make sure I take my battery actually up to 13.5 volts. So so the flex panels, where I live, the reason why I went with flex, the condo that I live in, I basically park under the house, and there's these concrete beams that are exposed and they come across just for the whole support of the structure we live in, of the condominium building. And they one beam right in the middle, right where I park at, was a really big one, and it's lower hanging than the others, and my van just clears under that by like maybe 3 inches. I mean, it's really close. So I was unable to buy glass hard panels. It's just, you know, after the mounting systems and putting it on the roof, it was going to be too tall for that. So in my case, I had to go with flex. I know a lot of people don't like flex. There's some bad reviews out there. So far, you know, I'm really liking mine, by the way. They're giving me the satisfaction of a quick charge. They're very powerful. It's not as hot as what I thought the heat that they were going to generate of what I thought. Actually, I can touch them and things like that, but so far the performance of them has been holding up really well, so I'm more than satisfied with what I bought with for my application. But I know a lot of people don't like them. They don't have much of a longevity. I might get 3 or 4 years out of them, and you get what's called a burn spot. That's very possible. Who knows? Time will tell. But for right now, you know, mine are new and they're working out for exactly what I need. So I went ahead and I wired my system in parallel. So in parallel, basically I have 4 panels at 100 watts each, and putting them in parallel means I keep the volts at about 18 volts coming in, and it basically doubles up on the wattage to 400. So each panel is 100 watts, 4 wired in parallel. I now have 400 watts of solar at 18 volts. So I'm using a Epever 40 amp charge controller. I really like these. It's rated at 600 watts of solar on a 12 volt battery. If you had a 24 volt system, you could double that to 1200 watts. It's 40 amps power that it can withstand coming in, so it packs a punch. And I went a little bit overboard with some of my electronics. My main reason is I didn't want to go bare minimum where I'm just, you know, barely making it on charging. And so the system I have, even if it's a cloudy day, I still get a good charge in the batteries, you know, for the amount of electricity that I use in my camper van throughout over the night, the evening and nighttime. Even on a cloudy day, my system is enough to bring the battery back up to peak, and that's basically what I wanted, was a renewable energy source where it's strong enough to actually recharge the battery in a fast enough time where I'm never having to worry about power issues and running the battery too low and maybe taking days to charge it up, you know, like if I would have had like 1 solar panel, for example. So I went ahead and I went a little bit big with it, just to give me the recharge capability even in inclement weather. And I even tested it in the rain, and I couldn't believe straight cloud and, you know, drizzling rain, and I still had a charge going to the battery. So I'm more than pleased with the design and with what I went with for my application, you know. And running a 3000 watt Renogy inverter, I can easily power something like a coffee pot, 1200 watts, hair dryer, 1200 watts. I can do that no problem without causing anything to start getting hot. And my main concern was fire safety, of course. You're dealing with some small electronics, smaller wires and things, so heat is obviously something that's very important that we want to avoid of something catching on fire. I went with 10 gauge wires. 10 gauge wires can handle a continuous load of about 40 amps. They're not going to get hot, and so I'm running, you know, on a good sunny day, a good solid 8 or 9 amps charge coming into it. So I'm well within the range of the 40 amp load that the wires can handle. So everything is nice and cool. Nothing's getting hot, and it's just safe. And, you know, you never really want to max out your electrical system to where things start getting hot. Another thing that I mentioned in a previous video, but another thing that's really important to consider with wiring, especially when you're talking about through the ceiling or roof of a vehicle, if you live in a hot climate like I do, the surface of a vehicle can easily be 170 degrees Fahrenheit. And when you're dealing with smaller wires, some wires only have a 200 degree or 300 degree temperature range of operating temperature, which is the safe operating temperature of the wire, that is. So if you imagine if a wire's like 200 degrees Fahrenheit because it's, you know, touching the skin of a vehicle in direct sunlight, that wire may be able to handle whatever it's rated at certain electrical parameters. The wire's maxed out on heat. So if you were to run electric through that wire and then you run, say, like a coffee maker or something that's a high wattage appliance, you're now going to add additional heat energy to that wire as electricity flows through it, and that's where you run the risk of something catching on fire. Besides fuses that can help blow to prevent things from catching on fire, obviously that's paramount important as well, but the actual heat of the wire is really important. So anyway, something to consider. But well, I'm going to go ahead and get the ladder out. We'll turn the camera around and I'll show you guys up on top of the van of what my solution was. So all right, looking at the top here, I'll just kind of come in close. You can see the corrugated plastic sheeting. I cut it out, measured it, cut it. I laid the solar panels on top, measured the grommets of the panels, drilled holes all through it. You can see they go everywhere. And I went ahead, put the screws in, secured them on the underside so they can't turn. And then I have washers, lock washers, and then just some nuts on the top to keep it all secured. And this is just straight butyl tape. And this tape, like I said, once it's on, it's on. It's extremely strong and durable. And everything is just bolted down and then taped down just to the surface of the vehicle. So I've been in, you know, I've taken the vehicle on highway speeds. I got no problems. And you can see I have the wires coming down there into the entry into the van back there. So I got no problems so far. This is my system. You know, I don't really have space. I could maybe put one more panel up there, but I don't need it. This is 400 watts. And you know, you can see it's flexible, it's soft. So what I like is air is allowed to get under there, and kind of keeps it nice and cool. I can touch it. It's not like burning my hand or anything. And you know, I like how it sits flush, very low to the skin of the vehicle, and not really sticking up where branches and things could catch on it, you know. And that was always a concern, is like overhanging branches. But anyway, this is it. It's working pretty good. And these panels, you know, if I need to replace one, it's no problem. I'll just undo the bolts and take it off and put a new one in. And it's all connected right here and here. So I went ahead and I bought an adapter cable that's actually 4 plus and 4 minus, and they all connect together. And then this comes into 8 wires now, and it branches off down into 2 on this end. So it makes it real simple to do. I just plus the plus, minus the minus. There was no guesswork in it. And you know, make sure I didn't do something backwards. But this is it. So far so good. And I have tape on the front, on the leading edge up there, to just make sure that wind doesn't, you know, get under there when I'm driving on the road, and then try to lift it up and rip it off. But yeah, I just came in there with the wires. So now moving on back here, you have a light here. Yeah. So 3,000 watt Renogy, and as you can see, we're charging now, coming in. So this is coming in from the solar panels here, coming into the first. I have a 30 amp breaker fuse right here, just in case there's a malfunction of electricity on the top. And also I wanted to add this one to make sure that if I'm driving through a lightning storm or something like that, if the vehicle were to get struck by lightning per se, I didn't want the electricity coming down the wire into here and into my system and blowing up the battery or damaging the electronics in here. And I know there's internal protection system in the MPPT controller as well, but still, for an added little bit of safety there, I just wanted to make sure that everything's nice and safe. So right here, I can just push that in and kill it. I also have a master switch here. I can turn this one off, and this stops the panels from sending a charge from the roof on into the Epever 40. So from there, coming out, I have another 30 amp fuse. This is just to allow protection, and in this one comes to a master switch as well, and then out of that comes into the battery. So basically, if I had to do some type of battery maintenance or some type of maintenance on the system, I can kill just the battery, or I can kill the electricity coming into the vehicle altogether with here, and this is the coming out, and that way I can turn this off and then do something on the battery if I had to change something out or take it out of the vehicle for any reason. This one right here, this is different. It's my 12 volt system, which is just running off the battery. There's my panel for that. Right here I have a temperature probe of the battery, and you can see the temperature probe goes into there. So it's got a full battery management system that I'm really pleased with. Also, I could charge the battery, you know, through an auxiliary adapter and just plug it in through house power, 100 volt power, if I just needed to charge the battery that way. And also I have a battery indicator there. I don't know if you can see that. It tells me the volts and percent of power. So right now we're at 100%, so I don't really need to do much else. I can actually just, I can kill the whole system here from charging. I went with 600 volt welder's cable. Now that was expensive, I'm not gonna lie. This was probably $60 for these two pieces of wire, 66 bucks. It's 4/0, so 4 zeros size, which is almost nearly the size of a quarter, I guess. It's pretty thick. And anyway, back there all my wires come up there. From here, everything branches off into what I call from my information wall, and it all comes in. And I gotta add one more outlet right here. I'm gonna run a small portable air conditioner, which I gotta install later. But anyway, so some specs of the battery there. 300 amp hour LIFEPO 4. So I'm going to come up here and show you guys. Hold on for a second. Let me turn on the lights here. Okay. So right here is the MT50 charge controller. It's like a remote controller that gives me a status of what's going on. So right now we're behind a cloud, 14.3 volts at 3 amps. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's kind of a big glare in there. It's got a smiley face. We're charging good. And in the direct sunlight, I'll push a full 17.5 volts, almost 18, and then I can even hit as high as 9 amps. You know, and it's April right now, so I'm sure, and once we get into the middle of summer months, I'll be able to get a lot more out of that. But anyway, right now everything's doing well. This is totally programmable. When I got it, it showed different things, but you know, it's got so much of an interface with it. That was pretty awesome. You can totally choose what type of battery you have, how many amp hours you have, what's the peak you want to max charge it at, what's the float, and basically you can do quite a bit of stuff with it. It also has a little audible speaker in there for warning if something is shorting out or getting hot or overcharging. It's designed to let you know that, as well as shut itself off. Alright guys, so there's quite a few videos on the MT50 remote controller there. Tells you the status of everything, and you know, there's some guys put out some really good videos on how to program it for your battery. On mine, it had a gel battery, not a lithium, and it only was showing 200 amp hour battery. That was just factory presets. So you know, it wasn't understanding that my battery's 300 amp hours. So basically you just have to go in and tell it to do that. Tell it, you know, you can totally program it to any parameters you want and what type of battery you have, and then now it understands it's a 300 amp hour battery, and you know, and I need to take it up to 13.5 volts, for example. So it's all programmed now, and it was relatively simple to do. And there's a lot of great content from other YouTubers out there that really discuss this thoroughly. So I appreciate them, you know, those guys for uploading some great quality information on that. You know, the instruction manual doesn't really go that in depth of all the questions I had, certainly. So, you know, I had to resort to YouTube, as so many people do, I'm sure, to go out there and figure out some more information. But with that, guys, I appreciate it. Thanks again for sticking with me through another video. That is my solar system. If you got any questions, by all means ask. You know, I'm not a certified electrician. I just did this by myself. It was relatively easy, and you know, everything just works great. Other things that you didn't see besides that, I have grounding cables of the system in the back, as well as the inverters grounded to the vehicle. So, you know, there's a few more safety additions that's kind of hidden behind there that I can't show you, but it's a safe system. And again, my key points or takeaways were the proper size wires. Pay attention to the heat generated wherever you mount the wires, like being close to the surface of a vehicle's skin where it's going to get really hot. And fuses will absolutely protect your wires. They don't protect anything else. They'll protect the wires from catching on fire, and they'll blow. And like I said, the other thing, the first fuse that I put in was for lightning or inclement weather with potential lightning. I wanted to make sure that, you know, I'm not going to have a energized power coming into the vehicle down the wire if I'm just somewhere and it starts raining and lightning. And you know, I'm on a tropical island, and it absolutely gets the weather can turn here really fast, and it can lightning and thunderstorms just pop up in, you know, in an hour around this place. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, I have that protection. That way, if something catastrophic like that were to happen, I'm protected. It's just the circuit will break, and I'm not gonna fry my whole system. So, but until then, guys, take care, and I'll see you on the next one.